John F. Kennedy. You know the name, you know the face. His presidency was incredibly short, but man, his legacy is long, complicated, and people are still debating it today. He's often remembered as this icon of hope and inspiration, but his time in office was also packed with huge challenges and some really intense crises. So let's dive in and unpack the man, the president, and the legacy he left behind.
It really all starts here. You've heard this line, right? This single sentence from his inaugural address just completely captured the spirit of a new era. It wasn't just some political slogan, it was a genuine, powerful call to action. It challenged an entire generation of Americans to get involved in public service and really take ownership of their country's future. It set the tone for everything that was about to happen.
So who was this leader that so completely captured the nation's imagination? Well, when Kennedy took office in 1961, it felt like a massive shift in American politics. A new generation was taking over.
So what made him so different? For starters, at just 43, he was the youngest man ever elected to the presidency. He was also the first Catholic to hold the office, which was a huge deal back then, breaking a long-standing barrier. His youth, his energy, and his incredible skill with speeches made him this powerful symbol of change. He was an absolute hero to younger Americans who were looking for a totally new direction.
And all that new energy, it translated into a really ambitious vision for the country. Let's get into the major accomplishments that kind of cemented his image as this forward-thinking leader.
You know, his take on civil rights is a fascinating example of how a leader can evolve. At first, he was pretty cautious. He was worried that if he pushed too hard, he'd tick off powerful Southern Democrats whose votes he really needed. But as the movement got stronger and the moral urgency became impossible to ignore, his stance totally changed. He went on to propose the landmark Civil Rights Act. He famously went on national television and called equality a moral issue, and he even used federal power to protect students who were integrating schools. He was really setting the stage for major progress, even though it came with huge political risks. And talk about a long-term vision. In 1961, he set a goal that sounded almost impossible: put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And even though he never got to see it happen, that bold challenge lit a fire under the nation's scientific community and led directly to the historic Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969. Incredible.
He also created one of his most lasting ideas, and it was a direct answer to that Ask What You Can Do challenge, the Peace Corps. It gave young Americans a totally different way to serve their country. Instead of sending them as soldiers, it sent them across the globe as helpers, in education, health, and building infrastructure. It became this powerful symbol of American idealism, and to this day, it's one of the most successful volunteer programs ever created.
But his vision wasn't just about these huge, lofty ideals. It was also focused on getting practical results right here at home. His administration pushed for lower taxes and other policies that promoted growth. And what happened? The economy expanded in a big way during his presidency, creating new jobs and new opportunities for people. Okay, but his presidency wasn't just defined by ambition. It was also defined by crisis. We're going to shift now from the heights of the space race to the terrifying depths of the Cold War, where Kennedy's leadership was tested under the most extreme pressure you can possibly imagine. Kennedy's foreign policy is really a tale of two Cuban crises. One was a complete failure, and the other a stunning success. The Bay of Pigs invasion in '61 was an absolute disaster. It was an embarrassing setback that he'd approved early in his term. But just 1 year later, he faced an even bigger test with the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this time, he chose careful, tense negotiation over immediate military action, and the outcome couldn't have been more different. For 13 days in October 1962, the entire world held its breath. The Soviet Union had placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. This was it, the closest the world has ever come to all-out nuclear war. And Kennedy was at the center of it all, navigating this crisis day by day, hour by hour. The fact that he managed to resolve it peacefully is often seen as his greatest moment as president.
But to get the complete picture, we have to look beyond the big wins. Like any leader, Kennedy faced major criticisms, and some of his decisions definitely had negative consequences.
So that Bay of Pigs failure wasn't just embarrassing. Critics say it really weakened America's reputation on the world stage. They also point to his decision to increase the number of U.S. military advisors in Vietnam, a move that many argue laid the groundwork for the much bigger, devastating war to come. And back at home, that initial caution on civil rights, it drew a lot of fire from activists who felt his actions just didn't match the urgency of the moment. And all of this brings us to the tragic event that cut his presidency and his life short, leaving all of us to forever wonder about what might have been.
On November 22, 1963, the Kennedy administration came to a sudden, violent end. The assassination sent shockwaves not just through America but around the entire globe, and it forever sealed his presidency in this state of unfulfilled promise.
So, when you put it all together, what is his ultimate legacy? Well, he inspired a generation to serve their country. He pushed the cause of civil rights forward. He steered the world away from nuclear war. And he set the nation on a course to the moon. In the end, his impact is this really complex mix of inspiration, incredible crisis management, and ambitious long-term goals. And that leaves us with this final question. For a leader like Kennedy, whose presidency was defined by so much ambition but was left so tragically unfinished, what matters more in the end? The incredible promise of what could have been, or the very real problems and challenges of his time? That's really the central question at the heart of the Kennedy legacy.